mean, probably the big talking point of today is Tanguy Ndombele from yesterday. So there's been some sort of reports, that we've brought you over the last couple of days saying Tanguy's considering his options and what have you. And there's been an update from The Athletic, I think it was today, saying, from Charlie Eccleshare, he's saying that there is confidence among some sources that with Tanguy Ndombele's talent, a buyer could be found, although others feel that he and Tottenham Hotspur are trapped by the length and value of his contract.
6-year deal he signed.
He signed a 6-year deal, what was it, 2 years ago? 200 grand a week. With what he showed at Spurs in the last 2 years, no one's going to kind of give him that money. And even if he was at the top of his game the last 2 years and showed complete fitness throughout the way and got the player that we thought we were getting, I think that even so, I don't think teams around Europe would be able to afford him.
Yeah, I can't see anyone being able to afford 200 grand
unless
a week
he goes to the Premier League.
Yeah, unless we send him to City or United or Chelsea. Unless we send him to one of those three clubs. I can't see. I think we're. I wouldn't like to say that we'll use the word stuck with him, but I think we have to have him for next season. I think because there's no. I can't. As much as he wants to leave. This is one aspect where I would agree with Levy that he shouldn't take a big hit on Ndombele with the talent he has. Whereas with someone like Sissoko, you have to take what you can get and get him out of the door as soon as possible. When it comes to Ndombele, there's always a possibility if he was to stay on, he could hopefully fulfill his potential. And when you're balancing an act, when it's a balancing act between taking a lesser fee or hoping we can get the best out of Ndombele, I think at some point it's worth taking the risk that, yeah, we might not get the fee we want, but I hope maybe we can get the best out of him if he does stay. So I would say if we don't get our money back, pretty much, it's worth keeping him.
For how long, though? How long do you wait and how long do you try and nurture his talent? Because obviously his talent is there for everyone to see. Nobody's doubting how much talent he has, but he's clearly got a mentality issue, clearly. And I think we knew about it, didn't we, before he came to Tottenham, this mentality issue. It was made quite evident by the Lyon fans that he did have some sort of mentality issue. We chose to kind of brush it aside and not really take notice of it and think that it would change when he did come to Tottenham and got his big move on big money, club record signing. But that hasn't been the case, and I think that these issues are following him around pretty much, and he needs to buck up his ideas if he's going to make it in this as a top player.
Well, it's interesting when it comes to quote attitude issues when it comes to Ndombele, because there are two schools of thought in terms of how people perceive Ndombele. I was reading this article this morning from Charlie Eccleshare, and he goes on to say that Ndombele, he's not a very outgoing person. He's very introverted. A lot of people think that he is kind of very how do you say, indifferent to a lot of things because of the way he conducts himself. He says a source in the dressing room, Eccleshare quote, says, if you know Ndombele, you know he is not a very vocal person. He doesn't speak a lot. That's just his personality. He's not someone who likes to have hour-long or even 30-long-minute conversations with people. He's more of a few-minute conversation. He's generally very, very calm.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think when it comes to that, so maybe with a lot of people he's misunderstood with managers, and maybe they just don't. Maybe they think he's indifferent, he doesn't care, but actually he's just shy or quiet and that kind of stuff. And maybe they perceive him in a certain way, and that could be the case. And maybe it's just about finding a guy who can understand him and maybe get into his psyche. Eccleshare also says, the key to whether Ndombele is a success at Spurs will likely lie in the extent to which Nuno can understand the midfielder's personality. This was something Mourinho was nearly fully able to do, and perhaps comes down to how Ndombele's shyness can be mistaken for indifference. Those who have worked with him speak of someone with a great personality, but emphasise he's very reserved. Even when dropped and publicly criticised by Mourinho, Ndombele never demanded to speak to the head coach about it. So far, he has been the same with Nuno, who is not big on one-on-one conversations himself. So I think Look, we're not in the dressing room. We don't know everything, but I think it's important to kind of give the other side of the story in terms of maybe people say he has attitude problems, and it might be true. We don't know, but also it's important to note that it's just his personality might lead to people thinking automatically that he doesn't care or he's not bothered about being criticised or not being picked and stuff. When actually that's his personality and he likes to focus on his football. It says Ndombele rarely gives interviews, and some in his homeland think this can make him a very easy target. It feeds into the sense that he doesn't care as much as some other players. From his own perspective, though, it is simply that he wants to concentrate on his football. So, look, we could be being unfair, but the fact of the matter, the brass tacks facts are Pochettino, Mourinho, Mason, and now Nuno have all had trouble with him.
Yeah.
So we can't get away from that either. It's you could say however you like that maybe all four managers haven't been able to understand him, but at the end of the day, it gets to a point where he has to take his own responsibility as well.
It's true, but what I would say on the Nuno situation with Tanguy and Ndombele, for me personally, I think it's way too early for Nuno to make that call. You know, Nuno's only been here for a month or whatever it's been.
Yeah.
And
well,
for
Nuno
him,
hasn't said he wants him out yet.
No, I'm not saying he has, but the rumors that we're having is Tanguy is looking for a way out,
yeah.
and we could be considering our options. And I don't think I think, like I said, I think it's way too early. First of all, for Tanguy to make that decision and for Nuno to make that decision, because they're both in a brand new relationship here. So I mean, I would like to give it another year because of the talent he has. I just really hope we don't sell him this summer. But you can't get away from the fact that, like you said, each manager seems to have a problem with him. Yeah,
and that's something that at some point there has to be a breaking point. And I don't think we're at there. I just don't think we're at the breaking point yet when it comes to Ndombele. I don't think we are. I know it's been 2 years. I remember Pochettino said when he first came it could take 2 years for Ndombele to fully adapt. So we're at 2 years now. I mean, clearly he's still having problems, but hopefully this season can be the season for him. And this is what I was saying about people criticising him for not being happy that his friends are leaving and stuff. I think it just plays into the fact that that's his natural personality. And that is, I think, when it's someone like him, when he's that kind of person who clearly is quite shy and whatever, and struggle coming into the dressing room into a new country, I think it is going to affect him when two of his best mates are leaving or looking to leave or whatnot, and they helped him settle in. And look, he's gonna have to man up, and he's gonna have to kind of, if they do leave and he does stay, he's gonna have to get used to it, no doubt about it. But I can understand why he's kind of at the moment looking at things like. I'm not happy that he's considering his option actually leaving, but I can understand him maybe being a bit like apprehensive about what's happening. But I don't think he should be. I think the fact that he's actually considering leaving isn't a good sign at all.
And he was considering leaving 2 summers ago as well. Was it 2 summers ago?
No,
or
signed
last
it 2
summer?
summers ago. So
Last
summer
he was considering leaving.
Well, that was him considering leaving, but also Mourinho was considering selling him.
And it's also should be said that Mourinho probably was the one that really got the best out of him, and he didn't get on with Mourinho at the beginning, and then they got on really well, and Mourinho did start seeing the best of him, and then Mourinho suddenly gets sacked, and then he doesn't play a game again under Mason, which was really strange because he was one of our best players last season.
Yeah, he became almost not, I wouldn't say undroppable, but it became a mainstay in the team, didn't he, under Mourinho after a time, especially after the beginning.
You started seeing consistent good football from him.
Yeah, I think the problem is, I think maybe it's similar to Delhi in what we were talking about with Delhi. I think it was on, when was it? I can't remember, a few days ago, where Delhi at his best when he's given a bit more freedom, and maybe he doesn't have to do it when he had Walker. Sorry, I was talking about this with John, not you. But we said Delhi when he was at his best, right? When was it his best? When he had Walker, he had Rose, he had Ndombele, and he had Wanyama, all covering his spaces, and he had 3 centre backs as well. So he had all that cover for him, so he could play a free role up front and do what he needs to do. I feel like it's a similar case with Ndombele, where we need to kind of if you put him next to a Højbjerg and a Skip, 2 kind of workhorses in a midfield 3, where yes, he still has to do his work, and maybe he has a lot of cover for him, maybe that's where you can unlock the best out of him. You just give him a tiny bit more freedom than the other you give him a bit more freedom than the other centre mids. That's how you can unlock the best out of him. The problem is we've got Dele, we've got Lo Celso. You know, you can't. Can we base the whole team around him? Can we afford to leave out Lo Celso and Dele to have him in? I don't know.
I think with the ability he has, I think you can. I think he was thriving last season with a back four behind him and Højbjerg next to him. I think he was thriving in that situation. So I don't think
he was thriving. Was the team thriving? No.
At times.
That's the thing.
At times. But I think if you get the balance right, I think it can work. But it's all about getting the balance right. But I don't think that he needs so much cover to get the balance right.
I think he might need more cover than other players, basically, is my point. I don't think he's lazy. I think we saw last season where there were at times, I can't remember what games exactly, but there were times in the middle of last season where he was working nearly as much as other players in terms of interceptions and tackles and stuff like that. He can be very aggressive, but I just feel like he can't keep that aggressiveness up for 90 minutes. And I think that's
been the problem his whole Spurs career.
And that's why I think a lot of the time he could do with a bit more cover. When it comes to that.
Look, you're right there, but, you know, it got to a stage with Ndombele last season where, you know, he was getting taken off 60th minute every game, right? And then it gradually got better and better and better, and it got to a stage under Jose Mourinho where he was lasting 90 minutes and he was affecting games late on in the game as well. So I think he's proved that he can do it for a 90-minute stretch. I mean, it's just about keeping himself fit and keeping himself consistent.
Yeah, but I just have a feeling like, can you play, for example, Ndombele and Dele in the same team?
That's a question.
You know, can you play not to say Lo Celso is not a hard worker, but can you play Ndombele and Lo Celso in the same team with only Højbjerg there as a defender?
I think you can, because I think Lo Celso and Ndombele both can be quite aggressive and both can be workhorses in the middle of the park.
Yeah, but there's one thing being aggressive. But there's another thing, being able to you need to be able to outwork the opposition. Are they able to do that?
I think so. I think Lo Celso's a hard worker, and I think Tanguy also can be a hard worker.
Yeah, but there's one thing being a hard worker, right? But there's another thing being like when you're up against, for example, even you're playing against, let me think, I don't know, you're playing against West Ham, right? They got Rice and Souček. As hard as Lo Celso works, he's never, he's not going to be able to match their strength and aggression, however hard he works. So you need to maybe compensate in other areas. And if you've got Ndombele and Lo Celso next to each other, when you're up against, say, Rice and Souček, who are stronger and they're more aggressive than Ndombele and Lo Celso, even if Ndombele and Lo Celso work really hard, as hard as they personally can work, they're not going to be able to work as hard as Rice and Souček. So are they always going to be overworked or overpowered in those kind of situations, is my point.
I think that you got to pick and choose the correct games to play them together and stuff like that. Like, I think that when we're playing at home to a low block side, I think it's perfect to play a Tanguy and Ndombele and Lo Celso with a Højbjerg or a Skip just behind them. I think that's perfect. What you're saying against West Ham, like if they're coming up against a Rice or a Souček, I think, yes, they probably can't match them in aggression and sheer work rate, but what they can match them in, what they can trap them in is their pure skill set. And I think that they can dance their way around. They can maneuver their way around anyone. They've got such big talent, these two. I think they can work in pretty much any game in the Premier League. And we've seen how, in the past, how Tanguy and Ndombele can thrive against the bigger teams, against a Man City, against a Man United. You know what I mean? So I think if we get it right, it can work.
Yeah, but he thrived. I know he's thrived recently in the centre, but mainly at the moment he's thrived in those big games when he's given freedom, is my point. You know, when he's played in the hole. Man City, when we beat them 2-0, who's played in the hole? When we beat Man United,
he was in the hole.
He was in for Spurs anyway. I know for Lyon, he's played in a 4-3-3. That's my point. He needs a bit more cover. He needs a bit more protection. I don't know if you can put him in a pivot 4-2-3-1 and against these kind of sides, and it will necessarily. He might play well, but as a team, are we going to be lacking because he's always having to track back, and maybe he's not the best at that?
Wasn't there games against Man City earlier on in his career where he played a bit deeper and he really did thrive and played
for Lyon
really
in
well.
a 4-3-3.
And against, I know we lost 7-2 that game, but the first 20 minutes, half an hour against Bayern Munich.
Exactly my point.
Yeah,
that proves my point. He played well, and we played well attacking, and then what happened? We got battered 7-2.
Yeah, we got battered 7-2. But was that? I don't know.
It's because he leaves a hole there. I'm telling you, he leaves a hole there. He could be brilliant, even himself in a you put him in a pivot, I'm sure he'll dance around 2-3 players and he'll do it multiple times a game, but it will leave you exposed, is my point.
Yeah, no, I can see that, and that ties into the mentality issue, in my opinion. It ties into the mentality issue because he's had the utmost fitness. He's been there. When he's playing in the middle of the park, like you say, he leaves holes. But you know, he's got the skill set to not do that. He's got the skill set and he's got the physicality to be a box-to-box midfielder. He does.
Is the other bit of his article is quite interesting. He says Ndombele's problem is that Nuno is an especially system and structural based manager. That is not to say Ndombele can't be a success under Nuno, but it will take a degree of compromise on both sides. After all, Ndombele in February told the Guardian, "I'm someone who plays on instinct. I never ask myself too many questions when I'm on the pitch. Thankfully, things come quickly into my head. You have to try stuff, and taking risks is part of the job. All teams need players who take risks." And look, that's absolutely right. But that's my point. As it said here, there needs to be a compromise on both sides, and that's what I feel like with Ndombele. There might need to be if you're going to unlock the real.
And I thought that the compromise started to show under Jose Mourinho. I thought he was doing that. As it was getting on in the season, as his fitness was growing, I thought that he was growing into that role superbly. And you know, we all thought at one stage last season, wow, the real Tungi is here now. You know,
it's true. It's true.
We thought that, you know, he was showing that compromise for the team. He was doing great defensive work. He was doing great going forward. But then Mason came in and just never played him again.
Yeah. So, I completely agree, and maybe depends what demands Nuno has on his centre mids and what he expects, and if Ndombele's doing enough.
And that moment of last season where he was on the top of his game, probably the best football he's played for Tottenham for sure. It shows. I mean, because some people are saying, "Oh, he's not suited to the Premier League" and this kind of stuff. That shows he is. That completely shows he is, and that's what stresses me out so much.
I remember this very clearly when Ndombele was having one of his best moments in the team for himself. I remember it was like midway through the season, but Spurs weren't getting the results. He was playing well, but Spurs weren't necessarily getting the results themselves.
Yeah.
So as much as individually we were able to get the best out of him, getting the best out of him wasn't getting the best out of the team, and that was the problem. And there needs to be some sort of balance.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true because our results completely dropped off at that time.
Yeah.
From January onwards.
I remember he had we beat Everton lost to Everton 5-4 in the cup. He was brilliant in Ndombele that day. He was brilliant, but we conceded 5 goals.
That was the birth of Lucas Moura in number 10, wasn't it?
Yeah. But we conceded 5 goals.
But we were brilliant as a team that day. But defensively, we were shocking.
That's the thing.
Yeah. The back four was completely
exposed.
And Harry Winks was absolutely awful. And,
but he came on an extra time. He came on an extra time,
yeah.
I think, so we can't blame that.
What a cameo, though.
One of the worst cameos I've ever seen. But I'm just saying, there has to be some give and take.
It wasn't just Ndombele's fault, though. You know what I mean?
I'm not completely. Of course it wasn't. Of course it was. I'm just saying there clearly has to be some give and take with him, I feel.
Yeah.
And I think we can find a system, but it's whether Nuno wants to completely find a system, but revolve the team around Ndombele. Do I think he's good enough to do that? Probably, to be fair, with his quality. But doing that probably limits Little Self, so probably limits Dele Alli. So it's whether Nuno feels like Ndombele either one deserves the team to be around him, and whether it's the benefit of everyone. I don't know. Maybe it is, but at the moment Nuno's leaving him out, and it must be for a reason.
Yeah, it's got to be for a reason, and it doesn't bode well, really. It doesn't bode well, and I really hope this situation can be turned around because, like I keep saying, this guy, he can be a complete game changer for us if we can get him fit and firing week in, week out. Box-to-box midfielder. He's got the physicality in the middle to do the defensive side of the game and the creative side of the game. He's second to none. Absolutely second to none.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I guess we'll have to wait and see how this one plays out. I reckon, again, it's going to be... he's not going to be... I don't think he's going to be involved against City on Sunday, clearly. If he hasn't played pre-season and he's fit and he hasn't been selected for Arsenal, I can't see him being selected for City on Sunday. Although there is 9 subs, that gives him a bit of a chance, but I still think it's unlikely he'll be in the squad. If he's not in the squad for the first couple games, it'll be interesting to see how we decide to go forward with it. But then again, as you say, it's about if there's a buyer or not.
Yeah.
What would you say? Maybe it's a case of loaning him out with an obligation to buy. It could even be one of those.
Could be one of those. I'll just be so gutted to see him go, to be honest. I really would.
Me too.
Absolutely gutted.
And you know, if he goes to back to the French League or La Liga, where maybe he doesn't have as much defensive responsibility, he's just going to smash it.
It could be like a kind of a Memphis Depay situation where, you know, it didn't really work out at Man U. I know it was different with the ages and stuff like that, but, you know, it didn't really work out at Man U, and now he's like one of the best Dutch players around.
You just know that if Ndombele was at Man City, where they pretty much have the ball 90% of the time, he would just be unbelievable. Yeah. It's because Spurs aren't as good as a team, basically, and we can't keep the ball as well as Man City, so he has a lot more defensive duties, and that's it.
Yeah, it's true.
And then he struggles a bit to his forte is not tracking back, so he's a bit less effective. If Ndombele played for Man City, I reckon everyone would consider him one of the best in the league. I reckon.
There was a time last season where I think people were starting to consider him the best in the league. One of the best, anyway.
True, there were times.